Hello beautiful souls. Today we're going to work on the strawberry applique, also known as raspberries. For me it's more like raspberry. Strawberry applique doesn't really work with me. So we're going to make this beautiful set of raspberries, more like a 3D version. So I'm taking this baby pink yarn and we're going to start with making magic circle and also take two sets of crochet hook, one being thicker and the other being smaller, because with time we'll realize that why we need two crochet hook. As for beginners, I would very much advise to take two sets of crochet hook, especially you need the small one. So begin by making our magic circle. So after making our magic circle, we'll chain one first. And inside this very magic circle, we are going to work our three sets of popcorn stitch, you can say, or half incomplete half double crochet. So it's like a more like a double crochet, but like an incomplete one where you do not finish making your double crochet, or you can also call it as popcorn stitch because it's popping out. So let's begin. We chain one first, yarn over, go inside that circle. Now make sure this is not a regular popcorn stitch. You pull these loops high, maintaining a distance. Okay, so you pull it somewhat high because you loosen the loop. Okay, like that. It should not be too tight. So we'll make three like these, making sure we're maintaining a height. You can do one more thing. You can secure your stitches or loop like with your thumb or index finger, and you can then yarn over and go inside and pull tight like that. Okay, and we're going to do this 4 times, like incomplete half double crochet 4 times, so which will sum up to your 8 loops. Then finally we yarn over and take out all of those like that. There you go. Here we have it. So we're going to make 3 like these, and then you are going to, after, I didn't show that part, right? I'm so sorry. Yeah, after you yarn over and pull through all the loop, you just chain one to secure your that stitch. Yarn over, go inside, make 4 incomplete double crochet like that, maintaining a height. So we'll make 4, and we'll obviously maintain a height of the loop, making sure securing that with our thumb, index finger, and then going inside and pulling out the loop, and then pull through all of them. And also the existing loop that we made after making our last stitch, chaining one, we will take out our loop from that as well, securing our work like that, and then you chain one like that. So after pulling your work, you'll chain one, so make one more, pull out this loop from this loop, and to secure your work you chain one above your stitches. And then for our next row, first what we'll do is, for this row we have made 3, we will take that tail from our magic circle, we'll tighten our work, and it'll come up somewhat like this together. Trust me, it's going to take shape as we go on. So now you chain one, turn your work, and you see that gap there. in that very same gap where we made our last chain. So we chained one, and then that is the gap we are going to go inside and work. So yarn over obviously and repeat twice like this your incomplete double crochets. So maintaining a height, making sure it's quite puffy like that. 3 and 4. I'm going to fast forward this video because I do not wish to make it long. Take out that loop, secure it with chaining 1. There you go. And then we are going to work in these gaps between our puff stitches. Okay, inside that very gap. You do not need to go inside any stitches or loop, you just go inside that gap. So yarn over, go inside that gap, pull your loop 4 times like that, yarn over and pull your loops, yarn over and pull your loops, yarn over and pull your loops. So 4 times like that, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through all of them, and then pull your loop out of that existing loop as well, and then secure it with a loop. There you go. So we are going to work inside our gaps, and I'll show you when I reach here after working in this gap that what we are going to do. So make one more like this in this gap as well. So we have reached towards the end. So remember that we are following a pattern where it's like a pineapple effect. So we made 3 in our last row, we are making 4 in this row, and we'll make 5 in the next row, followed by 6 in the next row. So with every row, one puffed out stitch increases. So when we reach towards the end of our row, we are going to make somewhere in that very end loop where we started making our puffed stitch for the last row. So we are going to go right there, and we are going to make our 4 incomplete double crochet like that. So take out your 4 double crochet like that. Side. When the crochet hook is a little bit thicker, it could be a little difficult to adjust in or go inside that loop. But if you're having trouble going inside that loop, you can always take a smaller hook and go inside that stitch. So pull through that loop, tighten your work by chaining 1, secure. So we're going to proceed with making our next row. So we are familiar how we start. We're going to work inside that very first chain, that gap. So go inside and pull your 4 incomplete half double crochet. Same process, just like we repeated in our last 2 rows. So we pull out 4 and then we yarn over. So we do not finish it when we are done with making all of the incomplete loops. We simply pull out and then we secure it with a chain 1. And then we are working inside those gaps. Remember, you do not need to go inside any loop or stitches. You can just work inside that gap. That will give it a much more effect, like the pineapple effect. Like it's not Now when we reach towards the end, we are going to work in our end of the puff stitch like we are doing in the other rows. So you can see that loop right above my puff stitch from the last row. So we are just going to yarn over and go inside that stitch and try making our 4 set of incomplete double crochet, and then we pull through and chain 1 like I showed you in the other rows as well. So if you are having trouble with the existing hook that we are using, the 3.5 millimeter hook, then you can choose a much more thinner or a smaller hook, which will help you to go inside your loop and take out the stitches. Because if your hook is too thicker, you will have trouble going inside your loop, and you might have difficulty even go inside a different loop, which is not a loop actually, but rather the puff stitch. So make sure you take a darning needle and figure out your loop, or you can also use a smaller version of hook to figure out your loop of the first or the last puff stitch. So when we are done with our last puff stitch for the row, we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and see how those puff stitches are coming off. They look quite puffy, although in the last row I might have made some mistake because I do not like how the very first row is shaping out to be. So this is our last row. Like I said, we increase with every single row. So we're going to make 6 puff stitches, 3 in between, 4 in between, I mean in between the puff stitches, the gaps, and 1 single puff stitches in the corners. So we work on our gaps, total of 4 gaps we have, because last row we made 5, which has your 3 in the between and 2 in the corners. So we will work on our gaps with making our incomplete 4 double crochet. So this part can get a little bit tricky because we are working on our last gap for the row, and this is our last gap, and please ignore the construction sound. I have been waiting like for hours to make videos and give my voiceover, but seems like my faith has really striked. So we're going to go inside that last loop. Like I said, you can take your darning needle or you can take a smaller version of hook to figure out how to get inside that loop, because if you use your crochet hook it might be a little bit difficult to figuring out. So I was having a lot of trouble with my crochet hook, and then you're obviously going to make your 4 incomplete double crochet and pull through. So when we are done with our very last stitch, we are going to yarn over and chain 1, pull through from that existing chain. So we've done with our strawberry applique, or also known as raspberry. For me it's more like raspberry. I really am like not familiar with strawberry applique or something. To me it's more like raspberries. So just chop off that yarn and secure it tightly, and now we're going to take our green color. So as you can see, the purple raspberry I made before, it's very much puffy and tight. So for making our leaf, I'm taking a smaller version of hook. The reason being that we are not going to complete our incomplete double crochet. We are only making 2 sets of incomplete double crochet into every stitches. I mean the gaps. 2 sets, remember. Unlike our raspberries, we made 4 sets, but for our leaf we are making only 2 sets. So it really differs from one stitch to another. So please concentrate in this part. So we're going to go inside that very first loop where we started our puff stitch for our last row. So we're going to go inside that, take our green yarn, take out a loop and chain one, securing that green color so that it doesn't come out. And then we are going to yarn over and pull through twice, but we are not going to finish those stitches. So we'll yarn over and pull through twice. We'll have 4 loops and we will not pull through that stitch. So we'll not finish, okay? Rather it will stay in our hook only. We'll just keep it in our hook and we'll finish off later. As of now, do not concentrate on pulling the stitch. Just concentrate on making our two incomplete sets of double crochet we made in the corner, and this is in between our 2 puff stitch. So for our next, we are not going to work in between. We are rather going inside that 3rd row, inside that gap. So do not go here or there, but rather inside that gap to keep that work secure. So 2 incomplete double crochet. So you can see those gaps, right? The loops. So the loop that is interlinking both the puffed berries. So that is where we are going to be working. For our next 2 stitches, we will just work in between. So remember, we'll just make 2 sets of your double crochet. So in between we are going inside our last to last row, but for our sides we are just working on our normal, like in between and in the corners we are just working our normal double crochet. So I made a mistake. I just realized that I want that stitch to be in between my berries. So you can pause the video and you can check again and again that where is it I am going in and pulling out my loop. Make sure to yarn over. If you do not yarn over, you will get your yarn all tangled and messed up. For that last stitch, it's quite tricky. You are going to go inside your last loop wherever it fits in, wherever you can find a way to go inside, but making sure you do not go through your puff stitch. So you just pull through twice. Make sure to always yarn over. We are making 2 sets of incomplete double crochet inside our gaps and stitches like I showed you. Just follow like that in the video. I'm not being very specific or writing down the patterns since it's a little complicated, but always remember, in between we're going to make these 2 sets of double crochet. So we will pull them all through. So this is the reason I used a smaller hook. So after we are done pulling our loop from all the loops, see, I made a blunder. Like I said, even having a small hook, I made a blunder and I had to redo it once again. So we are just yarning over and pulling through those all loops that we created, making sure it's very tight. Make sure to tighten it, and then we are going to take our yarn from the other side. Make sure to tighten it as well. Take our yarn and make a loop from the loop we just pulled out, and then we are done with making our raspberry. I was having a little bit trouble because I do not want to redo that again. So yes, we are done. So now you chain 1 for securing your work and you chop off the yarn. So we are done making our raspberries, cute little raspberry. As you can see the difference between the purple and the pink raspberry, the purple one being a little bit tighty and the pink one not being very tight. It's a little much more puffed out, looks much like strawberry, not raspberries. So it could be the reason of using a bigger version of hook. That could be the reason. So for my tails, I'm not going to secure it, but if you want, you can take a darning needle and you can secure it. But then I gave a second thought in securing with the darning needle because I do not want it to be all incomplete. So I'm just going to take my darning needle and try securing those loops. So this was a very easy method of making your raspberry strawberry applique, also known as. So I'm going to take those tails and secure them, making sure they do not come off and my raspberry does not turn into sets of yarn. Jokes apart. So let me know in the comment box that if it was helpful or if you would like a different version of raspberries. And I'm also trying to make like not a 3D version but rather just a normal flat version of raspberries to add them in my sweaters, because I was thinking of making some winter crochet projects. So I'll definitely share them with you. And sorry again for not posting regularly. I do sincerely apologize. Do forgive me and do motivate me to post regularly. And also, if you want a detailed crochet pattern, you can also comment down and let me know you want a detailed crochet pattern. And everything is fine, all is good. You guys take care. All the best working on your crochet project. Hope you succeed. Take care. Bye bye.